Hi, I'm Carol Thielen, and this is my bow tie quilt. It's made from scrap strips for the bow ties, and the background is a white tone-on-tone. I've always admired quilts that had little bitty small units and small blocks. Not miniature quilts, but just small pieces. But I was always afraid to cut the small pieces. I thought I wouldn't be accurate enough, and I thought it might drive me crazy. So when AccuQuilt came out with their 4-inch cube, I thought, this is my chance, and so I jumped on it. So for those of you who like the numbers, the blocks finish at 2 inches, and the quilt finishes about 67 by 81. There are 34 blocks across and 42 blocks down. So that's a total of 1,428 blocks. So I'm going to show you, there's two ways that I'm going to show you how to cut and piece the bow tie block. You can cut squares. You'll cut two different size squares with either your rotary cutter or your AccuQuilt, and then you'll use the stitch and flip method to make the little triangle part of the bow tie. The second method is to use the AccuQuilt bow tie die and little triangle die and square die, and then you don't have to do the stitch and flip. You'll just stitch the triangle to the bow tie unit or bow tie piece. From that point on, everything is pieced the same no matter which method you use. So at the end of this video, I'm going to show you close-up pictures of this because it's really difficult to see what it actually is. So stay tuned at the end of the video to see the close-up pictures. And also look in the description because you'll find a download for different sizes to cut different size bow ties and some more information and resources for you. So let's get piecing. This block is really very easy to make, and I'm going to show you both the stitch and flip method and using your AccuQuilt dies with the little bow tie section. For this method, the stitch and flip method, you're going to cut squares, and you'll have 2 large squares for the bow tie and 2 large squares for the background, and then 2 smaller squares for the little bow tie, the little triangle here in the middle. And so you can rotary cut these your usual way to rotary cut. You can use your AccuQuilt to get the sizes. These here will make a 4-inch finished block, and these are 2.5 inches for the large one and 1.5 inches for the smaller one. And there's also another way if you have the AccuQuilt. I don't have one of the dies here, but it's called the 4-inch bow tie die by Alex Anderson, and it has all of these squares on it, so you can cut 2 bow tie blocks with 1 pass. And then this is how the little pieces you're going to cut. And to cut these, the background is the little snowball here. This is from the companion cube, the corners. And so if you choose any size, just use the same cube and the corners that correspond. Like this is the 4-inch cube, so this is the 4-inch companion corners. So you'll have this die for the background fabric, and you'll have this die. I believe this is die number 12, and I think this is die 11.1. It's not on here, but this cuts the little triangles like this. And you can cut 2 blocks with 1 pass on all of these. And then finally, this is, you can't hardly see it, but these are 4 squares that it will cut, and this is from the 4-inch mix and match cube set. So if you have another size cube set and the corresponding corners, you can make that size of finished block. And that's also in the reference chart too. So now I'm going to show you how to piece both of these. You're going to take your small squares and draw a diagonal line on them. You're going to put it on the edge of one of your squares, your background squares like this, and you're going to stitch along the diagonal line. But I'm going to show you something that I found works better for me. If you look at this diagonal line, which you can't see too well, this one's a little bit better, This is the diagonal line I've drawn, and it goes from corner to corner. And I found that if you stitch slightly to the right, this is the edge that's going to get cut off. If you stitch slightly towards that edge, you get a better results when you flip it over. I always flip it over first to make sure that it's stitched right, because you want this to make your square. And then you'll go through and you'll clip these edges. So then press this toward the dark side here. So do that for both of those. Now for your AccuQuilt, you're going to simply sew this triangle onto this block, your triangle onto your little bow tie, and you'll stitch 1/4 inch. And I have one of these here. So you can see this is stitched 1/4 inch. Then you don't have to trim this. And then you press this toward the corner. Now at this point in the process, you have the same thing, whether you're doing the stitch and flip method or the AccuQuilt method. The next thing you're going to do is stitch your bow tie squares onto this other square. And once you do that, you'll have 2 halves of your block, and then you'll simply stitch your blocks together this way. And then here are some completed blocks. This is a 4-inch finished, and this is a 2-inch finished. Now the next series of photos and narration will tell you how I put these together into the design I made. This picture shows how I pieced about 24 blocks at a time by doing the chain piecing. As I finished each set, I threw them all into a big container and I mixed them up. I sort of tossed them all together so they would be mixed up when I was ready to piece them into pairs later. After all the blocks were sewn, I reached into the bag and grabbed a handful, and I just started sewing blocks into pairs. I sewed the entire bag of blocks into pairs. After that, things started moving really quickly. I sewed the pairs together into 4s, and then after that I sewed the 4s together into rows and just went on as you normally would, sewing rows and then sewing the rows together. And here is part of the finished top. Now let's see the close-ups.